Hello, my name is FY18 Mendoza and I'm the Homeless Liaison and Foster Liaison for Sunnyside School District. Welcome to today's presentation. In this presentation, we'll discuss the McKinney Vento Act and the educational rights of students in foster care. In this presentation, we'll discuss subject areas that will ensure that you're in compliance with the federal law. We will go over the McKinney Vento Act, the definition of homeless, unaccompanied youth, identification of these students, their educational rights, and how you can help. We will also discuss the changes to foster care. So what is the McKinney Vento Homeless Assistance Act? The McKinney Vento Homeless Assistance Act is a federal law that protects the educational rights of homeless students. The federal law was originally signed in 1987. Students who qualify under the McKinney Vento Act have the right to enroll in, attend, and succeed in public schools. The McKinney Vento Act also requires public schools to appoint a homeless liaison who can help determine if a student is eligible for McKinney Vento services. Recently, the McKinney Vento Act was reauthorized in 2015 under the Every Student Succeeds Act, also known as ESSA. Some of the changes made to the McKinney Vento Act was the removal of the term of awaiting foster care, expanding the definition of school origin to include preschool and receiving feeder schools, improving college readiness, and focus on unaccompanied youth. So who is eligible under the McKinney Vento Act? Children or youth who lack a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. This could include families that are sharing the housing of others due to loss of housing, economic hardship, or similar reasons. We call this doubling up. Living in motels or hotels or campgrounds due to a lack of adequate alternative accommodations. Living in shelters, domestic violence shelters, or transitional housing shelters. Living in public or private places not used for sleeping, such as cars, parks, or abandoned buildings. The McKinney Vento Act also protects migratory children and unaccompanied youth who are living in these type of circumstances. An unaccompanied student is a child or youth that is not in the physical custody of a parent or guardian. This means that the student is living apart from his or her parents or guardian. According to the National Center for Homeless Education and the U.S. Department of Education, U.S. public schools enrolled over 1 million homeless children and youth during the 2014-2015 school year, including over 95,000 unaccompanied homeless youth, which represents a 21% increase over the 78,000 unaccompanied homeless students enrolled in public schools during the 2012-2013 school year. So how do these students end up being homeless and on their own? Some of the most common causes are abuse or neglect, economic challenges where there is pressure for the older child to be financially independent, shelter policies where there's lack of space, or the adolescent boy is directed to live in an adult male shelter, or acute social conflicts such as pregnancy, sexual orientation, or substance abuse. So what are the educational rights of homeless students and unaccompanied homeless students? The student has the right to immediately enroll and attend school even if he or she is lacking the paperwork normally required for registration. The student has the right to attend their local attendance area school or their school of origin. The student also has the right to receive school transportation to and from their school of origin. The term school of origin refers to the last school the student attended during his or her permanent residence or the school in which the student was last enrolled. The student also has the right to access educational programs such as vocational and gifted programs and to be enrolled in the free lunch program. Identifying these students is extremely important and is one of the reasons why we do presentations like this to raise staff awareness and community awareness. You can help us in identifying these students by looking at some of the possible signs of homelessness. Typically, at the time of enrollment, families or students may not have all the paperwork needed to register in school, such as proof of residency, immunization records, or birth certificate. You may also see erratic attendance, chronic hunger, or tiredness, or the student may appear withdrawn. If you suspect a student is experiencing homelessness, please let our office know. We can immediately help the student enroll in school, place the student on the free lunch program, and if needed, set up school transportation. We can also provide other support services such as uniform assistance, school supplies, and toiletries. This concludes our McKinney Vento portion of the presentation. We will now go over the educational rights of students in foster care. On December 10, 2015, President Obama signed into law the Every Student Succeeds Act, also known as ESSA. ESSA, as previously discussed, amended the McKinney Vento Act and removed the term awaiting foster care placement from the definition of homeless children and youth. However, students in foster care have McKinney Vento-like protections with a modification to the school transportation process. Effective December 10, 2016, students who were in the care of the Department of Child Safety, or DCS, are no longer considered homeless and do not qualify under the McKinney Vento Homeless Assistance Act. However, students in foster care have McKinney Vento-like rights, such as the right to remain in their school of origin if it's in the student's best interest. School of origin for foster students is defined as the school in which a child is enrolled at the time of placement in foster care. If a child's foster placement changes, then it would be considered the school in which a child is enrolled at the time of placement change. Since foster students no longer qualify under the McKinney Vento Act, this means that public schools are no longer the default entity mandated to provide school transportation. However, public schools should collaborate with DCS to provide school of origin transportation in a cost-effective manner. This means that negotiations must take place between the foster liaison and the DCS caseworker. Well, this concludes our presentation. I wanted to thank you for your time. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me or my colleague, Mayra Rodriguez. Thank you so much for your time. Have a good day.